Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Leader Show, where we talk key issues and news at the intersection of business and technology in hopes of making you a better digital leader. We're live every Wednesday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the audio recording is available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Dan Goodstein. I head up IRPA AI, a professional association, media, and peer-to-peer research network providing education, networking, and advice to over 130,000 members worldwide, all around automation, enterprise AI, and digital transformation. Today, we're discussing pitch slaps, AI slop, and other deadly marketing sins with special guest Mike Montague, plus headlines for digital leaders from the world of enterprise technology. Thanks to our sponsor, Oracle NetSuite. Their cloud ERP helps provide real-time visibility into operational and financial performance. Podcast followers can get preferred pricing of up to 45% off at irpaai.com/netsuite. I'm joined today by Chris Surdak. He's a senior analyst for IRPA AI, former White House Chief Transformation Office Advisor, partner for digital transformation at Gartner, and AI practice lead at EY. Chris, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. As you pointed out earlier, an early welcome to the dog days of summer. Can you believe it's almost August?
Yeah, well, you reminded me that like the quarter was almost over like a month ago, and I kind of lost track of that. But yeah, here we are, middle of summer. It's like 120 degrees in New York, and as I was saying before we joined, I'm fortunate to be one of the few that gets to work inside in air conditioning. It's tough out there.
I think when I mentioned the quarter being over a couple of months ago, I was referring to the century, not the year.
Yeah, going fast, and lots going on. As always, it seems like this has been the week of validation for a whole bunch of different technology. At least if you use the Wall Street as the as the litmus test. You had Microsoft stock soaring last week ahead of their earnings report. They had a record 518 a share last week, touting cloud dominance and AI dominance, and warding off critics about weakness in their legacy business and recent layoffs. Wall Street's about to evaluate Meta's expansion into AI. They're releasing their earnings report today. This is after we've reported, $200 million compensation packages for some people. And according to, I think it was Bloomberg, Apple's lost its fourth AI researcher just this month to Meta. So big investments going on there.
I am having such massive flashbacks to the spring of 2000 because exactly the same things were going on at the peak of the internet bubble. It was about an order of magnitude to 2 orders of magnitude less money changing hands, but it was basically the same thing. So I'm having major flashbacks.
Yeah, and you mentioned beforehand just the relationship between Microsoft stock and gold, which I thought was an interesting comparison.
And I was in a couple of calls this week with other AI strategy people, and this we got on this very interesting track of discussion about where is all this investment money coming from, and why are there such massive inflows to AI. But yeah, so Microsoft is at 500 and something. I looked at the 5-year trend and it's up about 150%, which sounds phenomenal, right? But then when you look at the price of gold over the same time frame, which is the thing we most associate with actual physical money, gold is up like 65%. So the number is cut at least in half just in terms of inflation. And the inflationary numbers are a little hard to look at, but the collective delusion of this thing we called money works great until it stops working great, and then it usually causes a lot of pain. So I hate to be the naysayer there, but there's a lot of indication that we're coming into some interesting times on people's balance sheets pretty soon.
Yeah, and speaking of alternatives to gold, crypto industry assets surged past 4 trillion last week for the first time, right after the U.S. president signed this Genius Act into law, making it the first federal law to regulate stable coins. So as I think you said last week, this is in a lot of eyes kind of legitimizing the crypto space.
It's near and dear to me. I was talking to a colleague in Africa, and in Nigeria, there was something like $56 billion of inflow into stable coins in the last month. that's either indicative of, wow, this is a great new tool that we're going to use, or there's a whole lot of Nigerian prince scams that are looking to take advantage of this new regulation. I'm not sure which it is yet, but we'll wait and see. In other news, crypto is, it's taken a while, but crypto is fully legit now, or at least as much as fiat currency is, and potentially arguably more so. And I think you're going to see a lot more disruption along that line. As people, there's the thought out there that several trillion additional dollars will inflow into crypto now that you can actually have it part of like a 401k, whereas before you couldn't do that. And so are you going to put it in, a commercial real estate investment trust, where commercial real estate has, I think, about $500 billion of bonds that are potentially going to fail in the next 2 months? Or do you put it in Bitcoin, which is the better bet? Lots of choices if you're an investment advisor these days.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I won't comment on whether it's good, bad, or what have you. But, I will say as a technology evangelist, it is kind of cool that, all these emerging technologies are driving so much, not just conversation, but investment. There was another news about a startup, a medical startup, healthcare startup called Ambiance. Raised another $240 million. So they're up to a $1 billion+ valuation, and, signaling excitement around AI in the medical field. And we're seeing more and more of these. Like, I'm like a market watcher. I'm not, I don't know everything, obviously, but you and I watch this stuff every day. And, when I prepare for this show, I learn of a new company that I hadn't heard of a week beforehand. That's apparently $1 billion company now. So it happens every day.
$1 billion valuation we used to call a unicorn because it was so rare. You might as well call it, if you have $1 billion valuation these days, you're a golden retriever. Everybody's got
it. All the cool kids are doing it.
Yeah, well, and maybe not so golden anymore. We'll wait and see. We know there's a market rationalization coming, and Dan, you and I go way back on the IRPA stuff, and we're seeing the exact same things in 2025 in AI as we saw in IRPA in 2016, or in the internet in 2000. History repeats itself. So it's a good time to actually look at what matters. It kind of a segue to our upcoming conversation for the call. It's a good time to actually evaluate what matters and what produces value and what is going to yield things like revenue and profit in the future, as opposed to just, kind of being on board with everyone else at this point. So there's going to be a real big shakeout, I think, of the AI haves and have-nots in the coming year or so.
Yeah, a couple other headlines before we jump to our main topic for today. And I kind of highlight a few different ones, Chris, because to me, they all represent seismic changes in society. I know it's a big statement, but it's really the truth. Netflix CEO came out this week and said that they've launched their newest blockbuster sci-fi. It's a sci-fi series completely created using Gen AI, and talking about the benefits, not only from a cost standpoint, but from a creative standpoint. You have Delta make an announcement this week that they're going to start using AI to set fares and talk about hyper personalization. We'll talk to our guest about this a little bit, but imagine a pricing model that prices airline flights based on what it thinks you're willing to pay for them. Completely different, paradigm. Brings up its own issues, and of course, OpenAI has launched its ChatGPT agent, which, as you said, guys coming from the robotic process automation space. I know there was a lot of tongue-in-cheek chat a few years ago about the death of RPA, but this might actually be it, right?
Yes,
that's like 3 shows in one there.
Yeah, I mean, yes to all of the above. I mean, to what extent are we going to value completely artificial content around the Netflix model? Potentially, it'll be amazing. There might be examples of that, and potentially, it is going. A bunch of people are going to hire agents to watch the agent-generated movies, and then we're going to create a whole lot of fake revenue out of fake eyeballs. It's going to be a fascinating thing to see. Again, as we're going to talk about sort of the more humanizing of AI, can you really identify that strongly with something that is a completely fake entity? the characters in the movie and so forth. But they're already fictional. But the reason that people are stars is because we idolize them as humans, even though in a lot of ways that's artificial. So we're coming up with all kinds of uncanny valley sorts of issues of will this be acceptable to people? Will they adopt it? When so much of what we see in movies and so forth is inherently fake anyway. It brings to mind the importance of storytelling and how we are a storytelling species. So as long as we don't lose that storytelling thing that we identify with, this might work and it might be great. If we miss that storytelling thing, I think it's going to be a major fail.
How do you feel about paying what you can pay? I mean, that's, when I first saw that, I'm like, oh my God, that's terrible. But I just got to kind of thinking about, how that may apply to different groups of people, underprivileged. I mean, if I don't know if I believe that it will actually completely do that, but they're planning on using this technology for a small pilot now, but their goal is to have it basically deciding the fare, like 20% of its plane fares.
A lot of the pricing has been algorithmic for decades. I mean, I worked in the travel industry in the early 2000s, and for hotel rooms, it was algorithmically determined, what are you going to pay? So this allows a higher degree of flexibility and customization, maybe. But then I go back to the 80% or 70% error rates that you get. And I'm predicting now that 6 months hence, the big story is going to be the person that got on a plane for like $1.72. Or something like that. It's going to be the hallucinations that give you a first class seat to Dubai for $17, right? And that's what's going to be in the mainstream. I'll put a pin in that prediction right now, because it sounds great on the one side, but if we don't protect the oh crap, it didn't work the way we wanted it to side, that's what's going to be front page news.
And this agentic AI from ChatGPT, is it what I think it is, Chris? Is it really kind of the death of traditional automation, or is it more just kind of more headlines, more hype?
Again, if there's a 50-50, and if mathematically there's a 50-50 shot that you're going to have a hallucination and you never know when it is, do you really want to give the agent your credit card number and hope that it makes the right reservation for you? There's a 50% chance that it'll do it correctly. Yeah, I mean, I think it is the next predicted in my book on RPA that, this is where we're going. But if we weren't particularly successful with RPA, which was deterministic automation, the rules-based automation, are we really ready for guest-based automation? Best gambling automation? It's going to be interesting. A lot of people are playing with agentic right now. And some people get very good results until you don't, which is very typical of automation. So it'll be interesting to see what adoption looks like. And then again, what are the Sony moments that we hear when something goes wrong in an unanticipated fashion?
Yeah, I haven't played with this explicitly yet, but I have noticed, not knowingly, but I have noticed, in some of the large language models that I use day in and day out, I've noticed a new trend, which is this kind of sourcing of what it's doing, and where it's and the logic behind it. And so, I think if at least the way it's supposed to work now, very much a human in the loop, multi-step type of process where you can kind of validate its reasoning at each step. It's very interesting, right? Because, unlike unattended automation where you don't really know what's happening in the background, you're seeing the logic, you're seeing the thought process. It's checking in at whatever relevant point you want it to, and you're hitting you're hitting send before it goes out. Interesting. Could be very, very interesting.
The ones that demonstrate the chain of reasoning, which is more often now, is extraordinarily useful if you are someone with expertise in the thing you're asking about, and you can critically evaluate the reasoning process and the results that you're given. So as a research assistant sort of thing, this is great, right? It's Mr. Watson assisting Sherlock Holmes in solving mysteries. If you're a neophyte on the given topic, this is industrialized Dunning-Kruger effect, because these systems respond in such a self-confident manner. Oh, of course, George Washington's white horse is black. Why would you ask otherwise? That if you don't know enough to know that it's basically lying to you,
yeah,
you're going to be incorrectly influenced into doing things that you shouldn't or want to do. So it's a real conundrum, certainly for marketing. And how's that for another softball segue into the rest of the conversation?
Yeah, that sounds good. So let's add our guest in here, Mike Montague. He's a founder of Avenue 9, host of the Human First AI Marketing Podcast, worked with brands like LinkedIn, Uber, Zoom, Bud Light, Kansas City Chiefs, and the author of 2 books on the topic. His podcasts have over 3.7 million downloads. Mike, great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
So good to be here. And man, that's hard as an AI person to watch you guys do the news without chiming in on those stories. So I feel like I want to roll back and get to like 3 of those. But
you're right. Tell us.
We'll get there. The one I think is interesting, and Chris, I would love to hear your take on this, because you mentioned that in marketing, Facebook has been paying attention to our conversations and stuff for a while. And the media has dubbed it surveillance pricing. Mm-hmm. That like they'll watch what you're doing, and then the moment you go to buy it, jack up the price.
Amazon's been doing that for well over a decade as well, right? If you go in and you test, you search on something over in Google, and then you hop over at Amazon, they'll jack up the price because of the proximity of the 2 searches. That's old tech at this point.
Yeah,
I personally was building some of that stuff in like 2013, 2014.
I don't feel like it's human first. I feel like this is, if they get busted, you mentioned the one, sure, some people can game the systems, and that's the one that the news puts up there is you got the $17 flight to Dubai. But what they don't show is the person that paid $700 for something that should have been $17.
Yes.
And they just got ripped off. And, it's to me, it's like the casino. I love your gambling analogy too, where all of these things you can try and they may win, it may pay off in your favor, and it may not. So I think the hardest part about being in business, I think in 2025 is deciding what to put those bets on and what not to.
So I'll make a very tangential reference, but I think it applies. A lot of people are familiar with the concept of catfishing in dating, right? You're using filters and all this other kind of stuff on a dating profile. And then all of a sudden you meet the person like, holy cow, you're not what I thought, which happens more often than not. But if you look at the current market cap of all the dating apps that are out there, they're like 5% of what they were 5 or 6 years ago. So to your point, you can encourage that sort of predatory or surveillance pricing, which is kind of what you're doing in that instance from a dating perspective. But the market's going to catch on eventually, and it's going to really bite you hard in the end.
Yeah.
And I use that.
It's interesting because I think there are generous ways to do this, right? Like when we look at our healthcare system now, it's like, okay, well, if the poorest people pay the lowest price and the richest people pay the highest price, that's not inherently bad, or the amount of value you'll get out of it. I think we all do that in business, where it's like, I know as a marketer, this is a great, segue to our conversation too, is that when I started Avenue 9, I can't charge per blog post anymore. Writers and marketers were charging per email, per blog post, per piece of content. Well, I could make 1,000 now in an hour, and you'd owe me $50,000 for the work that I do here in a minute. But I also can't charge you hourly, because I could create $50,000 worth of value for you in an hour. So what am I going to charge? I would screw myself if I charge you hourly. I'd screw you if I charge you per piece of content. So now we have to create some sort of value exchange. Well, what is this worth over time? And I don't think pricing strategies like that are bad, but I also don't think that's why people are doing this. People are doing it to maximize profits and not in the customer's best interest. And that is only going to work in the short term.
So, Mike, what do you think, that example of, we're talking about something and then 10 minutes from now, it pops up on our phone. I've had a lot of conversations about that, the creepiness factor of that. You've worked with some big brands. What's happening in those discussions? Is it, and I remember marketing, day one, marketing automation 101, where it would trigger a sequence based on you visiting their website. And we had conversations about how long after you visit that website should we trigger that email, right? Because we don't want it to be like instant because it's too creepy, but we don't want it to be like a day later because then we're missing the up, right? So that was like the first time I ever experienced that conversation. But now, I mean, obviously it's on steroids.
Yeah, and machine learning and predictive analytics have gotten out of control, which is, again, a good and a bad thing. If you think about it in a human first way, I think the Target story was amazing. This happened like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. Target predicted that the 16-year-old girl was pregnant before her father knew about it. He got upset, went to the store, complained about it. And then when he came back later and said, oops, sorry, you were right, it turns out it's not very hard to predict if somebody's pregnant. If they buy a pregnancy test one week and then a couple of weeks later buy prenatal vitamins and cocoa butter or something, you can assume that pregnancy test was positive. And then if, 9-10 months after that, they start buying, blue clothes and dinosaur toys and little army men, you can assume that maybe that baby was a boy born at a certain time. And then what you said is now 10 years later, we can predict the hottest toy for 10-year-old boys to gift on this birthday, and we can show that mom those ads later. And we have all this database of information. And Chris, this is where I wanted to challenge you a little bit. These companies are still saying they're not listening to you. But what I think is fascinating is they don't have to. If you mention something on this podcast and other people in your circle, your friends that are watching you on the podcast, start looking up an item that you mentioned, now all of a sudden they know, hey, everybody in your circle is looking for, whatever information about Taylor Swift's latest album. And they're going to start showing you ads for that because you fit that same demographic. And they've proven that you don't even have to have an account on Facebook or Instagram. But because everybody else in your household does, they can predict what you will buy.
One of the things that has been measured for over a decade, and again, I helped build this stuff, is the measure of your influenceability. So, how does someone become an influencer on YouTube? The main thing is YouTube says, wow, you're influenceable. So now we're going to give you 50,000 likes every time you post something, and you become a wonderful Manchurian candidate, and I can influence you to influence others. So, in my segment, I talked about eyeballs as a currency, likes as a currency in the world of attentionomics. And so all this is just a natural extension of attentionomics. I may not be able to get to you because I happen to know you don't use Facebook, but I know the 5 people that you sent emails to on your Gmail account last week, and you're talking about an upcoming birthday party, and I can influence them. Right. So absolutely that kind of stuff goes on. I coined this thing a long time ago. It's a persistent ambient surveillance device. It's always on, it's always listening, and it's always paying attention.
Yeah, and then you got to decide, I think, as a marketer, or these large companies have to decide whether you use that information for good or evil.
That's
right?
the key. That's the hard part.
So far, it's been evil. I think Facebook has been proven. It's research in my book here, Playful Humans, that social media makes you less social. It makes you more unhappy. They could easily tweak that algorithm to make people more happy and to make them more healthy and more social. But they don't do that because that doesn't make them the most amount of revenue.
If it bleeds, it leads, right? From TV, right? So, oh my gosh, the sky is falling and things are falling apart, or here's a fuzzy kittens available at the local SPCA, but first there's a meteoroid coming to wipe out the planet. That which one sells?
Right. Well, happy, self-sufficient, confident people don't buy as much. If I make you insecure about all of your features, your toys, your clothes, you're going to replace them. And so I think it's a really tough choice as we move forward. I'm actually hoping, so I say that pessimistically, but I'm actually optimistic, Dan, that like AI will help us solve these, that we're going to get to a point where we are already there. We can only handle so much spam and so many targeted messages that we're going to need AI or somebody as like a neutral force to pop in here and say, hey, I need to defend against this, or we can make algorithms to make people healthier or happier.
Yeah, you guys talking, you're listening to you guys talk about that dystopian world. I can't help but think there's a light at the end of the AI tunnel, though, because we essentially have two choices, right? If you believe and agree that the internet basically is advertising funded, which I don't think you could disagree with that, at least right now, then you're going to see ads. So the question is, do you want to see ads that Facebook has decided you're going to see because they're trying to influence you and depress you or what have you? Or do you want to see ads that are actually relevant to you because you're planning a party for your kid. So, you know, I had this conversation this week with a client, with a member, and we were talking about how scary it is, you know, making conversation or whatever. I get off the call, I look at my phone, and something popped up that was something that was said on the call, and I laughed and I said, "Oh God, that is scary." And then I went to the website and I almost bought it because it was relevant to my situation. So why not that versus let's go to the next, rally to overthrow the government, right? I think that is made positive in that, no?
There is a lot. I mean, I actually uninstalled Instagram from my phone because every time I got on there, I saw some kind of cool gadget thing, and I tried several. They didn't work out. There was a cool head shaver for bald guys, you know, and I
did that with TikTok Shop, so I hear you.
And I was just like, you know what, I'm out. It was too good. I was like, I could see where every time I open this, I want to buy something. And I think there is a little bit of a gambling slot machine effect to that, which is not healthy, even if it is giving us what we want. Sometimes we don't want or need the healthiest stuff in the moment. But I think there's also another side to that, which is, gosh, we're getting into deep stuff too, but human satisfaction includes some struggle. It includes some work. And while we think we want everything served up to us, or we think we need help doing that, we've been able to survive for a long time without those things. So really, I want those things in healthcare. I do want a health monitoring telling me if I'm going to have a heart attack tomorrow, and sure, pop up that ad that says go drive to the local ER or urgent care when that's coming in. But I don't want ads about the latest candy bar or something that's going to make me less healthy. So I think as we go forward, what I'm hoping, and this is, Chris, where I think you can jump in here too. I've heard other people talking about your own personal AI algorithms, that if I have my own AI running on my own devices that is controlling the information that I want through or working for my goals and defending against what those corporate goals are, I think that's how we get out of it. We finally get this AI that's in my hands and it's open source. And I say, look, I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to be able to eat healthier. I want to develop my business. I want to do this, give it my goals, and then say, okay, great. Show me the ads, show me the content, the feeds, the people in my network that could help me accomplish those goals. That to me seems like a utopian future versus the other way. Is that even possible? Or what do you think the chances of distributed AI versus these controlled monopolies is even possible?
I think the controlled monopoly necessarily leads to the distributed response. So I think there's going to be a backlash that turns into a forelash, and I think that's where the opportunity is. It takes me back to Star Wars and Princess Leia to Darth Vader. The tighter you put your grip on all these, the more star systems are going to slip through your fingers. So the more in an almost oppressive way the technology is used, people, the more people are going to look for the alternative. And so those alternatives that are more in your control, you have more transparency to what's going on and so forth, is going to be the natural response. And that's going to be the follow-up opportunity for people. I think we needed a degree of scale to come up with this generative AI thing. And I think the subsequent solutions are going to be more humanistic applications of that technology. Now that we've kind of figured out how to build the Death Star, now we need smaller ones.
Yeah. And I guess if we take this back to small business marketing, which is my specialty, I'm answering all these questions on a small scale too, which is like, if you're a small or medium-sized business, you got to decide, are you going to continue to build relationships, build your own authority online, build your own network of people that know, like, and trust you? Or are you going to try to invest in an AI tool to spam the crap out of people, send a LinkedIn pitch slap to 2,000 people a day or whatever their limit is, and grow your business that way? I think there will be winners and losers in both strategies. And it's a personal choice for your business of like, how do you ethically want to go about using AI in your sales and marketing? And that's a tough call for each business owner. A lot of people, I guess, are going to be desperate, or they're going to be greedy enough to go big. I want to actually help people enjoy the business that I run and feel good about it. So I'm going to try and use AI tools in a human first way that that builds relationships, that gives me deeper connections, that builds my authority. And I personally think that that's going to win long term, that other things, like you said, those countermeasures are going to come in for all the other shortcuts and the cheat codes. And I don't think countermeasures are going to come in to, oh, you actually have great, happy customers that are giving you 5-star reviews. That's always going to be a driving factor of marketing success.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this, Mike. As a sales and marketing guy originally myself, I'm always, maybe too often, looking for the edge, the differentiator. How do you get ahead? And I've always been one of these guys to say, hey, when there's it's either a technology or an issue. So pandemic opportunity, right? AI opportunity for a smaller or even mid-sized company to gain market share on a bigger competitor, just because the bigger guy can't pivot as quickly, right? They've got compliance and risk and all these other hurdles that they have to go through. It's back to the shadow IT thing of AWS, the success of AWS. Well, I'm the CIO and I got to get stuff done. So let me put this on my personal credit card and get an environment up and running so I can actually get something done. Right. So part of me is like, hey, you have to use AI, you have to use these technologies. And there's an opportunity, there's a window of opportunity, because I agree, 5 years out, everybody's using it. But right now, not everyone's using it, at least at scale, at least effectively. On the other hand, I see these posts. I saw a post today. I don't know if it was yours or another one, preparing for today's show, where they're basically saying, AI is not a differentiator. It's the internet. It's just the next platform. Where do you kind of feel like, where are you on that spectrum? What are you advising your clients?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a hot take on this that I think people are not going to want to hear, which I think is...
I love those. Those are the best.
Yeah. Business owners are driven to have to create value. Entrepreneurs create value, and they want to have an outsized advantage compared to their competition. What I think is sustainable is getting maybe the level of attention that you deserve. So when I think about SEO strategies, it's a great example where people are like, oh, if I can game the algorithm, if I can create a whole bunch of long-tailed keyword blog posts and get in here, I'll get some sort of outsized advantage compared to the rest of the businesses online in my marketplace. What I think people miss is when they're trying that strategy, if they don't have the resources and the infrastructure to back that up, it ends up backfiring or it burns out really fast. What does work is trying to get the amount of attention, reputation, and authority that you deserve in your own market. So I work from an inside out perspective of like, let's own our brand name, our keyword, what we stand for, our local area. Then we'll blow out a little bit. And how could we use AI to amplify what we're doing to own our own niche? Then to own like our customers and our second degree level connections. And then eventually, if we can get outside, we can get escape velocity to strangers in a wider market when we deserve it and when we've gotten there. But too many businesses make the mistake of saying, I'm going to use these AI tools to go super wide and reach 1 million people. And you're not ready. If you're brand new 6 months into the business, you're not ready to run a Super Bowl commercial, even if you have the money or capability to do it. You're going to stink at it. It's not going to work. You're going to waste millions of dollars. And even if you do call your systems are going to crash, your website's going to go down, and you're not going to be able to deliver it. And you're going to have a whole bunch of bad reviews. So when you think about AI that way, like you said, I do think it's just the internet. It's just another tool that when, cell phones came out, it became a viable option for marketers to reach the customers. Email, social media, the same thing. I wrote this book, LinkedIn the Sandler Way, because I realized the same problem was happening on social, where every book and every expert on the subject said, join 50 groups, add your maximum number of suggested connections, try to get millions of people, and then you post every single day, and hopefully someday somebody buys from you. Well, that's a pretty expensive gamble. You got to put in a lot of time and effort to get there and hope that somebody someday sees your post. And like Chris said earlier, LinkedIn has no interest in showing your post to them unless they make money on it. So they're going to charge you ads for that as well. And then all the profit on your sale goes to these pay-per-click ad bid strategies on Google or LinkedIn. And you end up making no money and wasting a whole bunch of time. So my strategy for LinkedIn was, how do you go to the people that you actually know, start real conversations about your business, and get introductions to other people that need your products or services as qualified leads? When you do that and you grow more organically by using all these tools, by all means, use AI to grow organically. Just don't think that you get this outsized cheat code. Is that fair?
You completed the thought that I was constructing, and we used to say the internet was trustless, right? Don't believe anything you hear on the internet. Now the internet is truthless. You can't believe anything that is coming across as potentially factual as factual. And I think the response to that is going to be radical authenticity, right? Yeah. I'm going to be so desperate to find out if something is actually real that when I find it, I'm going to truly value it. And I think, to your point, I find this even on my own like LinkedIn activity, where I'm more interested in the interactive engagement as opposed to the like numbers, right? Yeah. I don't care if I have 20,000 likes to something I just post. It's the 15 comments that someone put in. And so we're going to, in this truthless world that we're going into, I'm going to care more about the value of engagement than the volume of engagement.
I absolutely love that. And you just gave me like 3 more ideas. First of all, it's ironic that we're all AI generated right now talking about authenticity. No.
Hey, you don't have access to my content.
How do you prove that you're actual exactly human going
Mike,
forward?
This is the first call I've been on all week where the AI note-taking agents didn't outnumber the actual number of humans on the call.
That's true.
Dan,
thank you for actually attending and not sending Fathom.
Dan, how do you know?
So I think you're absolutely right. Rather than get a million fake likes from robots out there, and now even on LinkedIn, fake AI comments from other people, let's focus on the ones that are actual real humans in your target network. It's basic marketing philosophy, right? And then also I always wonder like how this is going to work for people. So say you can now, I've seen them, they're very good, have an AI cold calling agent, completely fake person, call your prospect, set an appointment for you and stuff. And then what if they go, hey, I liked, Travis I talked to on the phone. Is he going to be on the meeting? What are you going to say? Oh, we totally fooled you. We just scammed the hell out of you. Travis doesn't exist. That was my AI assistant. Like, people are going to know. They're going to find out eventually. You're breaking trust in the very first interaction with a customer. What I found with my clients, and I work with one called Coach 'em, that is using AI sales agents to train the salespeople to be better, to do AI role plays with the real humans to prepare them for those calls. And then you're making them better. I think a lot of people work on the wrong side of the problem by thinking like, how do I make AI act like a human? Instead of saying like, how do I get humans to use the AI better or to make us more human? Most sellers spend very little amount of their time actually selling. So let's take AI and use all the other 73% of the stuff that is not selling, like entering CRM data and attending those meetings. Send your Fathom recorder to the team call and spend more time actually talking to real humans. I think it's the only way that works for me in my mind.
We're entering an authenticity desert, and it's going to be the thing that we most thirst after going forward. Yeah, getting engagement in content is going to be nothing. Having it mean something to me is what's going to be the most valuable thing. We're going to give it. We'll give anything for it at that point.
Here's another crazy thought. I've been doing a deep dive on AEO on how you get indexed and recommended by ChatGPT or Google Gemini. And you know what AI needs most now? Authentic human conversations. It's already trained on all of the information on the internet. They've run out of data and they're creating synthetic data, which becomes like a copy of a copy. And it's been proven that it doesn't train AI as well.
It's idiocracy.
So could you be the person that's actually having the human conversations, answering questions from your clients and uploading those transcripts online in a way that gets indexed from the AI and giving it what it wants, but also what your people want? Generating more AI slop doesn't help your customers or the AI, but real human conversations do. Podcasts like this one do, because now all of these questions are getting transcribed and uploaded to the universe. We're live streaming to YouTube right now. It'll be transcribed and uploaded to Gemini right away. And they know that these are real humans and we each have reputations and authority in our fields. It's fascinating.
So, Mike, I get the push towards quality over quantity, especially as this stuff becomes more and more commoditized and everybody can do it. But I guess my question is, if all of your competitors are doing it, right? If all of your competitors are reaching out at scale to 10x, 100x, 1000x what you can as a small business without using those types of tools, do you at some point, we've had the conversations, debates on this show where it's like, the best products and the truth doesn't always win online, right? Sometimes the inferior products that are marketed better win, and sometimes things that are not true win because they get more clicks. So how do you balance that as a marketer to say, well, yeah, yes, I'd rather have a quality conversation, but I'm also going to get buried by my competitors then, no?
No, I think they may win in the short term. I think we have to zoom out a little bit, but also all of this AI and even Google is not really in the business of recommending slop and products that get bad reviews and bad content that was AI generated that people don't enjoy consuming. So I'm hopeful, or at least optimistic, that good content continues to win and good conversations continue to win business. What I would do, I would actually love it. I think, especially for small businesses and even medium-sized businesses, there is a market where, Walmart and Amazon are going to duke it out in this AI world to see who can, sell toilet paper for the cheapest and win that business. That's fine. Let them have that. You guys already reported the earnings calls, right? Like Microsoft stealing, people from XAI, that's stealing people from ChatGPT, that's stealing people from Meta. Let them fight those battles. While they're doing that, nobody is actually showing up at the local chamber event and shaking hands, or nobody knows who to actually turn to when they get 100 messages from all your competitors about having the best widget in your market. And then they got to go, I don't know. Who do I ask? How do I get help? And it depends on what business you're in, certainly, but I want to be in a business where there's some margin, there's some room for me to differentiate from other people. And so I help a lot of B2B services where AI agents are still not going into an enterprise sales call and building consensus between the buying team and getting sign off from legal and the end users and doing demos and handling tough questions in the calls. The AI is doing some bad cold calls right now. Let them do that. In the meantime, I'm going to be the one that's consulting with the client, helping them write the RFP that they're going to put out so that I win it. That's a completely different strategy. And I think it's just focusing back on that organic growth that I was talking about. And if you have the trust and the relationship, no amount of AI spam is going to steal the business from you.
So, Mike, what do you like? Are there any tools, technologies, AI that you do recommend?
Yeah, great question. I have a list of the top 9 tools on my website that I just did an AI awards for sales and marketing. There are some that are outreach or helping create content that could be used for good or evil. Like just take ChatGPT, for example. We can take the transcript of this podcast, upload it, and say, hey, based on what we talked about today, write a blog post about the most interesting topics for X audience, and it'll write it right away. And I can do that. And then I can say, write an email to send this out in a newsletter and point people to the blog post. I can also say, write a white paper or an ebook about this topic, and we'll create that as a trigger download. I think all of that is, we created something cool first, and then we repurpose it to other tools. So Descript is really great for that. ChatGPT is one of my favorites. The coolest tool I think out there, have either of you seen Gamma, the presentation app, yet?
Yeah.
No.
Awesome. $20 a month. It's the coolest. It does what PowerPoint you always wanted it to do, or it would do with AI, but Microsoft kind of took AI and plopped it on top of PowerPoint. Gamma is built like with AI at the core center of it. So you can do 3 ways. You can either do like the one-line prompt, try and one-shot it and say, build a presentation for the X about X. and it'll just write it for you, and it generates all the copy, all the slides, does infographic layouts, and uses AI to generate the images and puts it all in your brain template. The other thing is you can go from conversations like this or a conversation with ChatGPT and take an outline and upload that to Gamma, and then it'll make your presentation according to your outline. Or you can just upload an old PowerPoint and say, remake this for me and make it longer, make it more concise, and make it to this audience, and it'll just rewrite it. And that's a really cool tool, because all of a sudden now what you can do in 5 minutes, I don't know, Dan, you mentioned you were in sales and marketing. I would say a good 20% of my time as a professional marketer was either making PowerPoints for a sales deck, for an internal presentation, some sort of company meeting. And if those can be done that used to take you 5 hours and take you 5 minutes, that's a really cool tool. But take that one more step further. If I can now create a presentation in 5 minutes, that means I can do some really cool things for my clients or my prospects on a sales call. Instead of showing them the generic pitch deck that came from marketing a year ago, I can now say, rewrite that pitch deck to Dan,
Right.
and here's what his problems and pains are based on the Fathom or the Gong or call recording. Rewrite this pitch deck. And now all of a sudden, every client is getting a custom presentation, and it's only taking you like 5 minutes before the meeting to do. Those are some of the things
those are the things I'm excited about as a sales and marketing guy, right? It's to the point you made before, and I'll say it differently. What we've found over the years is that the people that are good at doing the research and finding the targets and the prospects are usually not the people that are good at actually doing the initial outreach, the cold calls, right? And it's not the same person who's good at or wants to be solutioning and doing relationship building and working with clients and closing deals. It's really, we've always recommended more of a deconstructed sales process. And so I think, there's a lot of tools now that will help that relationship salesperson do the stuff they're not good at or don't want to do, so they can focus more on doing the relationship stuff with the clients. We're tracking some really interesting tools right now that will help you prepare for a sales meeting, do research on your prospects at a company level and an individual level, that does listen in on the phone calls as a note taker, but then will draft a follow-up email based on the conversation with action items that can write proposals or start proposals, kind of like what you were talking about with Gamma, but more focused on proposals. And we've even seen some interesting AI agents that, to your point, are not doing generic outreach, but are doing kind of personalized outreach at scale, where it's wacky because we've had to stop using reply rate as the KPI because we get so many replies from people that are not interested, but are so impressed by the amount of research and personal attention that the outreach had. So there's some aspects out there, but I think the goal should be, where I do agree with you, is the goal should be around helping people, salespeople, marketing, focus more on what they're good at, right?
Yeah, what you said, every one of those things you just outlined are awesome examples because they're customer first. So when I think about marketing, and I want to go a little bit more strategic here, is that it's the same problem we've always had, trying to reach the right person at the right time that has the right problem, through the right channel in a way that gives them like the right ask and that they take action on. That's all marketing it's ever been. Well, we can use predictive analytics and machine learning to find the right person at the right time. We can even analyze their online behavior and say, oh, this person uses LinkedIn more than they use their email, or they prefer text messages or WhatsApp.
Right.
And then we can even look at their personality profiles and say, oh, Chris prefers deep research and case study and a lot of detail, but Dan doesn't have time for that. So let me shorten this pitch to Dan, and I'll lengthen it for Chris and include some stats and numbers. And we can reach out to them with the right message that way to exactly their pain points through the channel that they're using at exactly the right time. And then we get that ask of like, when they raise their hand to, okay, yeah, that's exactly me, I want to talk to a salesperson. Then we bring the human in. And in the groups that I've been seeing it work the best, we've gotten this up to over 80% conversion from each step of their sales funnel, and almost 50%. We were at 48.9% conversion rate from lead to purchase.
Wow.
Now, they weren't a ton. They're in B2B. It's an enterprise sale, but like 47 leads came in and they closed 23 of them, closed one, because we're only talking to the right people who are in market for the solution. And 80% of them are setting a first meeting. 80% of the people going to the first meeting, going to the second meeting. 80% of those are getting to a proposal. And we're winning way more than we're losing by using these AI tools to make what we're currently doing better versus trying to make it all inauthentic and fake and automated.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. If somebody wants more information on you or wants to get the book, where can they go?
Yeah, easy to find when you're an AI marketer. So you can search Mike Montague or Avenue 9. You'll find it. It's avenue9.com or Mike Montague on LinkedIn are probably the best places to reach out to me. Also, since you're listening or watching a podcast, check out the Human First AI Marketing show on your favorite channel.
Sounds good. Mike, thanks so much.
You bet.
Care.
Thank you.
Chris, any final thoughts?
I think we've had the comment on the show, and I say it a lot. In a gold rush, don't dig for gold, sell shovels. I think I view Mike in his viewpoint. He's the metallurgist in all this. He's the one that can figure out, is it real gold or fool's gold once you dig it up. I think he's spot on in a lot of his thoughts. The more we're getting flooded by this automation stuff, the more we're going to seek out and hunger for real human connections. So to me, that's where that's the backlash that leads to a forelash. Be part of the forelash. Be part of the people that use this to help humanize interaction as opposed to commoditize it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll be back on Wednesday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. In the meantime, if there's anything that you're working on, please reach out to us. We're happy to connect you with one of our experts or analysts. It's a free service we provide as an industry association. Go to IRPAai.org. In the meantime, have a great week, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Chris. Bye-bye.
See ya.